If you're just joining us, this is Breakfast Central on News Central. We're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Right before the break, Olive did ask a question: who should be on the currency here in Nigeria? Of course, following the purported changes and the likes. But let's go straight into the conversation, as we would look at a different story this time. Nigeria's PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar took to his Twitter page on Friday, November 4, 2022, to put his boss and former Nigerian president Olusegun Obasanjo on the redesigned Naira notes for the role he played in restoring peace in Ethiopia after a 2-year-long crisis. Now, in a series of tweets saluting the former president Obasanjo and his achievements, he hailed him and mentioned the fact that putting his name on the Naira notes would inspire future generations of Nigerians to sacrifice for their continent. Obasanjo, who led a delegation which also included ex-Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and a former Deputy President of South Africa, Mfumzile Mambo Nzuka, to broker a peace deal between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front on Wednesday last week, November 2nd to be precise. He is touted to be the one that should be at least on the Naira notes.
Now, speaking of being on the Naira notes, some groups, including the Yoruba Socio-Political Organization, Afenifere, and its northern and eastern counterparts, Arewa Consultative and Consultative Forum and Ohanes in Igbo, respectively, have backed these calls by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar that the image of ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo should be on the Naira notes to be newly designed. Now, joining us now this morning to analyze it is the Global Affairs Analyst Collins Nweke. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Olive. Hello, Joe. It's nice to be with you this morning.
All right, so now let's take a look at the calls. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has called that former President Olusegun Obasanjo be on the face of the Naira note. Now, if we take a look at the faces of those on the current Naira notes, from 200 Naira to 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira, we have people who have played very important roles in Nigeria's democracy, from Sir Ahmadu Bello on the 200 Naira note, who of course was one of the founders of the Northern NPC, and together with the NCNC, we see that they brought across democracy. Of course, we know that 500 Sir Nnamdi Azikiwe and 1,000 Naira notes, the two ex-governors of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Looking at former President Olusegun Obasanjo's records, do you think that he's done enough to be able to be on the front page of the notes? I mean, recently he brokered the peace deal between Ethiopia and Tigray. They talk about the role he's played in Nigeria's democracy, preventing a civil war in Sao Tome, and then the Liberian civil war. These are some of the accolades that they've rained on him. Do you think that these are reasons enough for him to be on the face of the Naira?
There is absolutely no doubt that former President Olusegun Obasanjo has done enough to merit his face on the Nigerian Naira note. I do not know that when the search is out to find and determine who is going to be on the Naira note, that they are looking for a cent. I don't believe that is the case. If they are looking for a cent, I do not think that there will be any face at all on the Nigerian Naira note. I say this up front because when you hear commentaries from people from different sides of the political divide, you will hear people who would bring up one thing or the other about President Obasanjo to say that he doesn't deserve to be there. That is absolutely unwarranted. Now, beyond the argument around merit, we also have to look at the timing of this call by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Former President Atiku Abubakar, more than anybody else, should know what the procedures are to determine who comes, whose image comes on the Naira note. So I believe that his call has more to do with politics than actually seeing the face of his former boss on the Naira note. But all said and done, yes, President Obasanjo deserves, to be on the Naira note.
All right, you've spoken that he deserves it, so you've given your pass mark. Well, let's take a look. I mean, take a look at the United States. You've got Thomas Jefferson, George. You've got Abraham Lincoln. You could put on the names here and there. These names are names that people can remember for one reason or the other. But let's talk about how faces in currencies do affect a particular perception of a country. You're a global affairs analyst, and we all agree that whenever the dollar is mentioned, it has some resonating force, especially to people who do have it at hand. How will this affect or impact on the Naira, especially on perception, looking at where Nigeria is currently on the global space?
Yeah, Joe, you may have to repeat the core question, because honestly,
all right. How would the face you have on the Naira, how would the face you have on the Naira impact on the perception of Nigeria, especially from the global community?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I have to say this. I think quite unfairly, the perception of Nigeria within the Committee of Nations has not been a very positive one, and I say it. I underline the word unfairly, because in every country you have the good, you have the bad, you have the ugly. Nigeria is not an exception. Now, let us take, for instance, one of the major issues for which Nigeria has been found wanting, that of travel documents. To be more specific, the Nigerian international passport. Now, over the past several years, I would say about 5 years, since the past 5 years, Nigeria as a country has done everything they can to build integrity around the international passport. It is a biometric passport, which means that the era of people going behind some building somewhere on the island in Lagos to hook up a passport, or one individual having multiple passports, these are all things that are behind us now. So as far as that is concerned, Nigeria meets international standard as in terms of its international passport. Now, that a tiny minority of Nigerians do bad things outside the country is actually unwarranted, to use that to paint Nigeria completely black, because in every country you go, including the one that I'm speaking from, which is Belgium, there are bad people everywhere. And so, President Obasanjo, I'm talking of President Obasanjo, when he came to power, one of the first things that he did was to tour the world to begin to build, positive perception, and he succeeded big time. Think of the campaign that his Minister of Information, Frank Nweke Jr., actually carried out during their time in office. Nigeria, good people, and those sort of slogans. So they did a lot, and so incrementally we're seeing the image and the perception of Nigeria getting more and more positive. But it's not going to happen entirely on its own. I believe that TV stations such as yours that is actually shining the light on the good things that Nigerians within the Africa continent is doing, helps to drive that perception to the positive level. And government on its own has got to be more purposeful, because it cannot be that efforts are being made to make Nigeria, the perception of Nigeria, very good, yet our leaders go outside the country and make some unpatronizing comments about Nigerians, which actually negates all the efforts that is being made. So Nigeria has got to get its act together, and I believe that enough good things are happening in Nigeria, around Nigerians, to make the perception of Nigeria a very positive one.
All right, now let's talk about a conversation, an angle to this that isn't oftentimes looked at, which is faces of women on the currency. Now, out of 54 African countries, only 3 African countries have women on their currencies. We have Malawi's Rose Chibambo, whose face is on the 200 kwacha. In Nigeria, we have Ladi Kwale, who's on the 20 naira note, not the front, the back. And then we also have in Tunisia, I believe that's Tawida Benchet, who is on the 10 dinar note. The role of women in economy and policy building cannot be underestimated. if we were to look at, explore women who have made great impact, we have the likes of Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, we have the likes of Professor Dora Akunyili, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. We could go on and on. Will the day come when we would have conversations about having a woman or another woman on the front page, on the face of the Naira? And is that time soon? Anytime soon?
Olive, sorry. The last sentence, I mean the core question, please.
Okay, I was asking, is it about time that we start having conversations about women on currency? As we're pushing forward, can we maybe start to talk about having the faces of women on our currency notes?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Olive. And I want to look at it beyond the currency. I believe that gender equity in Nigeria is a major issue. Now, there have been some improvements made again in the time of this same President Obasanjo that we are talking about, in ensuring that more women were appointed to political office, and a lot was done. Not enough, but I would say a lot, judging from where we were coming from, to ensure that the political landscape is made more amenable for women to actually be in elective offices. I believe there was a quota that was agreed at the time. So it has to be an all of society affair where women in Nigeria are actually given gender equity. We are not saying bake special cake for Nigerian women, because they are not seeking any special favor. Nigerian women are smart, they are hardworking, very resilient, and they drive not only the Nigerian economy but also the global economy. So when we say that they should have a piece of the cake in terms of making the environment more acceptable for women to play their role, we're not doing the Nigerian women a favor. We are actually doing what is right. And so I believe that Nigerian women being on the face of the Naira is part of that broader argument of gender equity. The time has come and the time is now.
The time is coming, the time is now. But we have a lot to talk about this, and I must tell you very, very well that you've spoken so much, Collins. Thank you so much for being here, by the way. As a global affairs analyst, we can go into all of these questions, but time will not permit us.